Hey guys, welcome to a Rugby Hemisphere analysis video. Today I'll be looking at the battle for the number 10 jersey, specifically between Handre, Pollard and Elton Jantjies. They both had quite interesting games respectively against the All Blacks last weekend, and today I'll be looking at the four main areas of their gameplay: attack defence, infield kicking and goal kicking. So Elton Jantjies, he had an up and down year last season, playing very well for the Lions at Super Rugby, but then faltering a bit at an international level, struggling really to get it home with the jersey. Well, Handre Pollard obviously had the fantastic 2015 season where he really nailed himself into the Bok jersey, putting himself in front of Pat Lambie, but then being out for all of last season and the season getting back in, but then going out again, and now just really trying to claw it back. So we'll start off by looking at attack. Elton Jantjies, probably the best fly-off in South Africa at doing this at the moment. The way he reads the game is just absolutely exceptional. I mean, here, for example, just spotting the space. His passing is fantastic as well. I wouldn't say it's as good as Pat Lambie's, but just very, very good. And just the clear vision. Like here, spotting Jan Serfontein, breaking the line, and just the way his way to step. He plays a really, really run ball type of rugby, which is matched in the Lions gameplay. I'm not too sure if the Springboks are going that way, but definitely with the Lions, this is where he really excels, because they play a very run ball type of rugby. And as you can see here, just spotting the gap, he's going to draw three defenders. He's just going to go straight down the middle. Had he been perhaps a bit more sort of a stronger runner, he would have gone through that gap, but I think he should have passed there. Just that would have freed up Jesse Creel and allowed the try. But now if you look at Handre Pollard, he's a much more different type of runner. He's much more physical, a loose forward type of runner. I mean, look at it, taking it to the line, just playing a much more physical type of rugby than Elton. And I think that's mirrored in the way the Springboks are playing at the moment. I mean, if you remember last year, Keen Boxer Porter, you remember them going on about, oh, we need to play this Lions type of rugby, which you were trying to do last season, and it worked for us to an extent. But if you look at the way the Springboks are playing here, just it's so physical. They've gone back to 2015, 2014, 2013 strength. In fact, the traditional Springbok strength of playing physical rugby. And it's working for them. I mean, here with the Dupree try, Pollard runs it in, draws three defenders, gives it to Marks, who's simple 2-on-1 to Dupree, who runs it in for a really, really good try by the Springboks. Pollard, he's just playing a gameplay that just matches the Springboks at the moment. I mean, here you can just see three defenders, draws them, Marks can just run a diagonal line, Dupree comes off the ruck, and they run it in for a superb try. It just shows that the Springboks game plan at the moment is working. I think that the match in Albany was perhaps a blip, where they just perhaps let their heads drop. I mean, if you look slow-mo here at Pollard, he's run through two defenders and given a superb offload to Marks. I really don't think Jantjies would have been able to do that. And I think that's something the box selectors should maybe take into account when making their decisions. So we'll have a look at defence now. I think this is an area where both young fly-offs need just perhaps a little bit of improvement. Jantjies, he's had a good season on defence so far, I think, especially with the Lions. Good tackling technique most of the time, but I think if you look at the way he's able to communicate with Dylan Lades there, it's quite good for a number 10. But then here's the Ioane try that was almost a try. Just come on, Elton. That really should have been a tackle there. Had Ioane scored that, his scoreboard would have looked a lot different, and perhaps the post-match opinion as well. I mean, yeah, slow-mo here. Elton, I think you can't allow yourself to get stepped like that. I fully understand that the Springbok defence should have been much further right. But Elton, his head's on the wrong side. He's washed his shoulders rather than his hips. Had Ioane scored that try, that would have been very costly for the Springboks. And here's just another example. Barrett charging down the kick because Elton's kicked it way too low, and it eventually leads to Crotty scoring that try. At international level, you've really got to be able to see how quick the defence is coming up, especially with the All Blacks. Elton, you can see how low he's kicked it. It's just way too low. And Barrett's able to charge down that kick. I mean, in that situation, a top fly half will realise that Barrett's coming, who's such a prolific player, and just, well, bail out of the kick and try and run. However, here you can give Jantjies credit here, just averting Ioane scoring a possible another try, just getting a hand in there, which does show that Jantjies does have the ability to really defend well. Had Ioane got his hands on that ball, there would have been huge danger on the right-hand side of the defence for the Springboks. He's just another angle. I mean, Elton, great hands, able to get to that. Had he caught that would have perhaps been a line break, but once again just shows that there is the possibility for Elton to prevail in that field. If you look at Pollard now, unfortunately there's not a lot I can talk about in defence because he was only on for a short while. But if you look at the, there's just one thing I want to check with him that I find just a bit disappointing is here. After you could see there, he comes up in defence and literally just misses that tackle, and that ball ends up being shipped to Mackenzie, who runs in an absolutely magnificent try for the All Blacks. If you look at it here in slow-mo, look, if you're charging up on the kick, you've got to back yourself to make that tackle. He just allows himself to get handed off, and the pass is given away to Mackenzie, who runs in a brilliant single-handed try. We'll look at now at infield kicking. Elton was very good in the match, I think, at this. It's another one of his strong points. Maybe sometimes he just, I think, underbacks himself on doing kicks that are further down the line, sometimes just kicking it a bit too far into the crowd on penalties. But his infield kicking is absolutely superb. I think it's something you should try a bit more are some chip kicks. I think, well, those of you who watched the Ireland Test series and will recall that brilliant crossfield kick from Jantjies to JP Peterson, who scored that try, which pretty much put us on track to win that second test. I think if he can really perfect that, it will really just improve people's perspective on his kicking ability, which is brought down by pretty much his goal kicking, which people then really criticise when it comes to the kicks against Australia, which pretty much lost us the match. Ferdy not missing any of the kicks in the match, while Elton missed one early on in Perth, and then one at the very end in Bloemfontein, which both would have put the Springboks in the lead. So I think Elton maybe just needs to show himself a bit more in the chip kicks and infield play, which I don't think he really uses as much as I think he's able to. But then again, the Springboks are playing a different style of rugby to that rumble which is used to at the Lions. If you look at the Pollard now, there's not a lot to analyse on him because he was just on simply not long enough. But if you look at just his technique there, he brings his leg up much further than Jantjies, and he holds onto the ball with that left hand, which just guides the ball onto his boot, something Elton does, but to a much lesser extent. And Pollard's power, for those of you who do look at that, Pollard's power is just so much more aggressive than Jantjies. His ability to kick the ball further, his range, especially on goal kicking, which we're going to look at now, is much further than Elton's. This is Elton's first kick of the match, that penalty early on that put the Springboks into an early lead. Elton, his goal kicking is really what concerns me about his ability, which is going to be his ability to keep hold of the Bok jersey. He's really lacking in that department, in my opinion. At international level, you should really be nailing every single kick inside your half against an opponent like Australia or the All Blacks. This is technically a pretty standard kick at international level, 40 meters, which he does nail. But the next kick is the one that, in my opinion, was a bit concerning. Here, it's a 35-meter kick. This, for anybody, any Sanchez, Ford, anybody in a top rugby team, top 20 in the world, should be nailing a kick from 40 meters in a high prolific test match. And Elton, he swings it left, and that 3 points would have put the Springboks ahead at the end. And if you look at Pollard's kicking now, he, in my opinion, is a better goal kicker than Elton. And well, you might tell me, Carl, listen, you're going on 2015 stats here, but I can honestly tell you, Handre is a much better goal kicker than Elton. If you look at the 2015 goal kicking stats, Pollard has a much higher percentage rate than Elton, but I must say this last kick here that put the Springboks back into contention to win was very good from Elton. But I must say, on the whole, Pollard's goal kicking, in my opinion, is much better than Elton's, and I think that should really be taken into account when you do look at the players as a whole, because after all, the number 10 jersey does come down a lot to how good a goal kicker you are, and I just think Pollard, he is a safer option when it comes to goal kicking. And I know it's totally wrong to blame Elton's kicking on the result of losing the test matches to Australia, but I really think that with opponents like Australia and New Zealand, where Foley is not missing a single kick, you have to nail those 3-pointers and 2-pointers when they come, because those are really just a formality. At World Cup level there may be more than that, but at test level you really got to make sure that you're getting those extra points, because the tries are what should be making the difference in a test match. So overall, I think although Elton is starting to get a bit of a groove in the Bok jersey, Handre Pollard's return has really shown us that he is the man to step up and take the Bok jersey to the World Cup. I mean, Kerwin Bosch impressed me a lot in the French tests, but right now Pollard has shown us that he's back and he's ready to take on the mantle. His goal kicking is much better than Jantjies'. He's playing a game style that is matching what Alistair Coetzee and all the other assistant coaches are doing with the Springboks. We are playing in South Africa a much more physical style of gameplay than we did last year. We are really going back to old strengths, and it's working for us. Our results have improved a lot since last year, although it was a bit of a disappointing rugby championship. We are getting back on track. I really believe that there is still hope for us, and we can still win this World Cup in 2019. But I gotta say, based on this match and the match in Albany, of watching Pollard and Jantjies on the field, it's really down to Pollard making this return work, because I can't see Jantjies. He's faltering. He's had a year and a half to grow into this jersey, and I really don't think he's done it yet. And Pollard's back, and he's ready to go. But thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please go check out my blog and the article I wrote for this. Check Rugby Hemisphere. I'll put a link down in the description. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and go Bokke.